So hello and welcome everybody to the Hero Collector Presents panel, where we're going to run through a whole bunch of stuff that, that we've been working on this year and that's coming up, because things certainly haven't stopped in these strange times, have they, Ben?
Definitely not. I don't think I've ever worked harder.
It's true, yeah. It absolutely feels that way. And if anything, it's like, how do you switch off when you're at home? It's very strange.
It's the mistake of doing what you love for a job. You never know when to stop.
And I mean, here we are literally, I'm in a TARDIS, so I'm sort of broadcasting from another place and time. And I think you are as well, although it looks a bit nice.
I'm in a Vulcan monastery. I felt that was appropriate.
Yeah, well, we've all got to slow down at some point.
Later in the day, you see, I might be in Klingon hell.
So I guess, it's been a strange year, but we started really strongly. It was, right out of the gate, we had a great showing with our first appearance at New York Toy Fair as an exhibitor. We really put our foot forward there. We had all these incredible plans, and for the most part, we've been able to sort of stick to them. What have been the highlights and big moments for you so far, Ben?
I think obviously getting the Orville out was a big deal for us, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Books program has been going from strength to strength. I think we're really expanding on that right now. We've got a lot coming out in the back end of the year. But everything is a pleasure. There's just so much stuff that we're doing, and that's probably been the highlight. Is there is so much stuff that we're doing and continue to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm just going to shift to my secondary console room, but actually having this come out, this wonderful wooden beast in our console range was great for me. But also seeing the Time Lord Victorious stuff and how well that's gone down, like being part of that is pretty thrilling. We're actually, we're contributing to the story there.
We are indeed, yeah. I mean, again, that's the kind of, I think the story is a story of expansion and of change. So, as you say, with the Time Lord Victorious, that's something that's extended universe. Which is always a nice area to get into. We've been doing Star Trek Online as well for that. Yeah. And also, it's the first time we've had a piece of fiction in the magazines.
Yes.
So I'm really pleased about that. And then obviously we've added a couple of new licenses, and I think we'll wrap up this program by announcing a couple more. So it's a good time for us, I think.
Well, all things considered, yeah, exactly. It's like I constantly feel guilty, how can I say this is a good time? And yes, despite all the difficulty, in a way we've been thriving without making light of the fact that people are kind of doing it tough out there. But certainly I think all of us are trying to make the most of it as best we can. And yeah, Hero Collector has definitely gone from strength to strength throughout this.
Yeah, and as you say, it's a very strange time in the world, and obviously it's very tough for a lot of people. But I'm very pleased that we've been able to carry on, making stuff and adding new stuff to it.
Exactly. So speaking of that, normally during a year we would have had things like San Diego Comic-Con. We possibly would have had, things like Star Trek Vegas by now. We would have had New York Comic-Con, MCM London, and instead, there's been little virtual things here, but really it's all come together for this Metaverse event that brings together. And it's really our first big opportunity to showcase and run through a whole list of what we've got coming out, because people get used to that from us and expect us. And I feel like they feel like we've let them down because we just haven't been saying anything for a while. So
we unlet them down. Should we bring them up? Whatever is appropriate.
Well, we're going to go from letting them down to overloading them within the space of the next, half hour essentially. So that's good. I mean, for those who are wanting more, we've gone, from famine to feast.
Okay, let's feast. Let's feast.
So I guess, we should discover what we've got coming up with that particular Star Trek collection to begin.
So Star Trek Discovery, we have the great pleasure of having got to name actually the Section 31 ships, and issue 30 is the Nimrod class ship. All the Discovery Section 31 ships that we got to name, we named after mythological warriors. So there is a bit of a theme going on there. So that is issue 30. Then the Klingon, now I'm going to get crucified for my Klingon pronunciation here, but Battler class, which is one of the fleet ships from season 1. Mm-hmm. Then another Section 31 ship, this time the Hu Yi class. This is the medium-sized Section 31 ship with 4 nacelles. And Hu Yi, for those of you who haven't had a chance to look up, is a mythological Chinese archer. And then at issue 33, another one of the Klingon ships, the Charg class.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you mentioned Archer there, because this is the reaction of every fan as we're slowly revealing more information. I feel that's exactly what's happening at home right now. And in terms of other things coming out, so you'd mentioned Star Trek Online before. There was some news about that as well.
Yeah, well, so Star Trek Online, we started, we've extended that from 10 to 20 ships now. And we can announce the 11th one, which is the Avenger class. Okay,
fantastic. And I guess if we can get into a slightly rapid fire round of some more announcements, because we would normally talk about the specials we're doing, the larger size XL ships. What do we have coming up for those?
So on the specials, we have the Sonar Collector ship, or science vessel, which is one of those ones we had to reconstruct because the original CG assets have been lost. Fortunately, we had renders from the time, so we've been able to rebuild it pretty precisely. John Eves helped us out a bit with that one. And then we have 2 more XL ships. We have the 2009 movie version of the Enterprise, the Hot Rod Enterprise, as JJ requested. And then the Delta Flyer as a larger model, which I think would be really interesting because it's probably definitely the smallest ship we've done as an XL. So you'd be able to see it in a lot more up close. You'll get closer to it than you would with any other ship.
And we're actually doing an XL ship as an exclusive for the convention, aren't we?
We are. So there's a funny story about this. John Eves is constantly telling me about how he keeps spraying our ships gold and they're going to turn up in the show. And so far it hasn't happened. So it's been a couple of times that they've been prepared to appear on screen and it hasn't happened. So we just decided to go ahead and do it ourselves. So we have made our very own gold Enterprise D. I don't recommend that you break your little ships like Peter Picard. I recommend that you invest in them and keep it safe.
So obviously the convention exclusive is a pretty exciting thing to have, and in gold no less. But we also have another, I would say, highly anticipated set coming out later this year, don't we?
We do. We have our 7th shuttle set, which is getting into some of the more interesting and obscure vessels. They're all canon. They've all appeared on screen with one exception. So we have the Captain's Yacht, which of course is in every episode of Next Generation, though you don't actually ever see it launch. We have Docking Shuttle, which appears in the background in quite a few space station scenes on TNG. It was actually made by Dan Curry, who adapted his son's GoBot foot. He had a broken GoBot foot, which he made into a shuttle, along with a few razors as well. And then we have a real kind of proper fan ship, which you'll have to look for. But in Trials and Tribulations, you can actually see Cyrano Jones's shuttle, the Spacematic, sitting in the docking bay for K7. And amazingly, they built a really detailed model, which we've replicated. And then the last one is one of those ones that we know exists, but never actually turned up on screen. It's in the TNG technical manual. It's called the Type 9A shuttle.
Okay. So yeah, we're sort of continuing our deep dive into stuff that you haven't necessarily seen, which I guess brings us to stuff that is perhaps a little bit more seen and certainly recently, because we have a new collection which ties into something you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so Discovery ends with issue 33, but before everybody gets too sad, it's only ending because we're going to replace it with a new collection that includes season 3 of Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds.
Wow.
So the Picard ships, this will launch in April. So we hope, with a bit of luck, that there will be a second season of Picard around then as well. And the first 4 ships will be La Sirena, very obviously. The Zhang He, which is the ship Riker turns up in at the end. There are actually 4 very similar ships in that fleet.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. But this is the first time people get a really good chance to have a look at it. And then the classic old school Romulan Bird of Prey, which got a nice facelift for Picard. And finally, 7 of 9's Fenris Ranger ship will be the 4th one. I say finally, I mean finally for what we're going to announce right now. There are many, many more to come.
Yeah, and that's ship number 4, whereas it should totally be ship number 7. Oh, no.
We can't be doing that. We're not having that. We didn't have Section 31 as issue 31 either.
This is why I don't choose the running order. Exactly. You know, there's limits to everything. So moving into the books, you know, we obviously did and have done a lot of publishing throughout the years, but I don't think we talk about the books program enough. So can you give us a bit of background on that and talk about, I guess, what we've done and what's coming up?
Yeah, so we've already launched several different lines of books, and we're taking that even further. So for those of you who don't know, we are issuing a line that I call sort of Jane's Fighting Ships of Science Fiction Shows, which is called Shipyards. And we've done several volumes of Star Trek ships. We've also done one of Battlestar Galactica ships. You can imagine what we might do in the future. So the Galactica one came out this year. We've got 2 volumes of Delta Quadrant books because there are so many ships in Voyager coming out early next year. We have the Designing Starships, which is taking the kind of articles that we've done in model ships, but expanding on them in a lot of cases, adding new content to really kind of document the design history of all the different Star Trek ships. We have the illustrated handbooks, which are effectively technical manuals, but using all the fantastic color artwork that was the beginning of my life in Star Trek when we were doing the Star Trek Fact Files. So we had Voyager out earlier this year, which obviously ties in with the anniversary. And then we've got Deep Space Nine coming in the beginning of next year. So those are the lines that we have been doing, but we are not done there. We have new things to launch. The first of which we launched just a little while ago. And there's a line called Nerd Searches, which is our colleague Stella came up with, which was pointing out that all the fans ever do is look for mistakes. We're all just going, that's wrong. So she said, well, why don't we make a kind of search and find where we deliberately put lots of mistakes in and then see if everyone can find them. So the idea is it's a kind of search and find for people who really, really know their stuff. You don't have to know your stuff. There's plenty to find if you don't. But if you know what you're looking for, you're going to find all sorts of strange mistakes and things that don't belong. And we launched that line in September, and there have been 2 books in it so far. So there's been a Star Trek one, and there's been a Ghostbusters one. So that's something that I think is a lot of fun, and I think anybody should have a go. We put one up as a sample on StarTrek.com, so everyone can go and have a go, see if they can find all the things that don't belong. And then if that's not relaxing enough for you, we can go over to Risa, which I'm just going to do now, and enjoy a cocktail. So we have our book of Star Trek cocktails coming out in time for Christmas. They're all cocktails inspired by Star Trek and by characters in Star Trek. We did a Sazerac for Cisco because he's from New Orleans. It's a really fun, really nice book. And I think if we were actually at a convention, that's exactly what we would be drinking tonight.
Oh, yeah. What, a Cisco Sazerac?
Well, I mean, you take your pick. There are 40 cocktails in this book. So I personally would probably have that, or a Kirk's Old Fashioned, I think.
Well, Sazerac's my favorite cocktail. I don't know about Cisco's version, but, certainly that one. So, yeah, I would be in for that. I may just do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Who needs
everyone's watching this, of course.
Of course, we can all be doing this at home.
Yeah.
And then we have a very sort of traditional book for us, but it's a book that I feel really should have existed and didn't. It's called Voyager: A Celebration, and it's a big hefty book that really looks back at Voyager. It's based on, I think we did more than 30 interviews for it. We talked to all of the principal cast members apart from Jennifer Lin, who wasn't available. It looks at all the departments. We talked to all the writers. It really is that book that sort of steps back and has a good look at the whole series and looks at what it achieved and its place in history. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm very proud of it. So that's something to look out for. I hope it's the definitive sort of retrospective book for Voyager. And my pitch for that was always this is a convention in a book. So for all those conventions you weren't able to go to this year, go and buy the Voyager.
Cheaper than a ticket to most of the events anyway.
And definitely you would never get this many guests. Even the best convention in the world, even Star Trek Vegas would be precious to get all of these guests at once. Well, and then the last book in the Star Trek line, at least, is, I think, very appropriate for the times that we're in. It's called Mr. Spock's Little Book of Mindfulness. And it's basically taking the kind of wisdom that Spock would quote in episodes and trying to apply it to the world that we live in. And you imagine Spock confronted by the kind of craziness of 2020 and just raising an eyebrow and trying to be mindful and philosophical. This will teach you how to do the same.
Right. And there's a little bit more to that than just the book. I say just the book, but there
is. You can have mindful mugs and mindful t-shirts. So it's illustrated by Glenn Dakin, who has been a part of us for a long time. He's very funny, very talented cartoonist. So yes, all the wisdom is accompanied by insightful and humorous cartoon.
And of course, if we sort of leave the world of Trek behind only temporarily, because we always come back, there's some other books coming out as well.
There are. We weren't satisfied with all the kind of books that we'd done. I wanted to do something really, really high-end, a really serious coffee table book. I've been working with Bond almost as long as I've been working with Star Trek. And we've done a superb, and I'm being immodest, but it really is beautiful coffee table book charting Bond's relationship with the DB5 from the very first letters that they wrote to Aston Martin in 1962 when the car was red and had just appeared in an episode of The Saint, right through to the latest stuff from No Time to Die. We've got lots of photography from the shoot in Matera. It's a really beautiful book, and I hope it's the beginning of a whole new kind of book for us.
It's so huge. I've seen it, and in its own and with its heft, it is a personal license to kill.
It is. I would not attempt to throw it at anybody. I think that would be a very unfortunate thing, and that I'm going to have to turn Ricer off in order to show you this. Hang on.
Oh.
You talk while I turn Ricer off. Hang on, there you go. There you go. It's a serious book, and it's something really, really pleasing to.
This is like the holodeck where we get back to sort of grim reality for a minute.
I'm not going to grim reality, but my room's not that grim.
No, I know. but compared to Ricer, you're like, well, it's hard pressed. And there's another one showing all the different Bond cars throughout the years.
There is, yes. So there's for those of you who are perhaps more interested in lots of cars rather than the one big one, we've done the 50 greatest Bond cars from 25 Bond films. So I hope that's something that people will look back and go, I remember that.
Yeah. Now, I've obviously turned on a background that is both appropriate for me and my interests, for sure, but also for our next segment, because Doctor Who, my enemies have appeared.
Yeah, I might be a foul.
Doctor Who has been another big license and a big thing for us, and especially this year. So what can you tell us about there?
What can I tell you about Doctor Who? Well, there's something I can't tell you about for Doctor Who. You'll have to go to the BBC panel to find out. So we have something that I think you might want to go and have a look for.
Yeah, I think that's going to be on their booth, that reveal, so people can go and have a look, and there may even be something to pre-order.
Yeah, something.
Yes.
Something that it's not for us to announce, but it is very much us. Yeah, so we talked about at the beginning about the fact that we're doing stuff that is more than just the figurines, not that it's just figurines at all. So we've been doing Time Lords Victoria stuff. We did our first Big Finish stuff, I think. That was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
long time ago, but yeah. So the hope is that there'll be more of that kind of stuff. I can't announce anything just yet, but I can tell you that we're very pleased with those things. And I can tell you that the main collection, the original collection, is going to be extended to at least 220 issues. So put your request in now, Chris. You can. I know you want a Drashig. I might go with the Chumbly first.
Well, there's so many things. I don't know if you saw, someone had dissected, as to each era of Doctor Who, what percentage we created.
What percentage we've done.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, we need more Fifth Doctor era. I really want a chameleon. But, anyway.
White Earth. We're doing White Earth and Aztecs, obviously. That's where we are now.
So that's exciting. And yeah, certainly with, Time Lord Victorious, that's been great. That's also been part of our big retail push this year, which is something I wanted to highlight because at New York Toy Fair, we had a great showing. We talked to a lot of different retailers, distributors. So in the UK, where you can now find us in HMV, in the US, you can find us in Hot Topic and Box Lunch and Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. There's a whole bunch of other retail aside from just being able to come and get it from us. And I guess that's one of the good things is that these have been great retail partners, but we've also remained consistent throughout, which has been great to be able to supply fans with things. Continuing that supply of things, there is a line of other ships that are going to be continuing that you can tell us a little bit about and perhaps show us something special that is coming early next year.
Well, I worked out how to do this without disappearing in the Zoom thing. So I can hold it in front of myself. So on Battlestar Galactica, the Galactica line continues. We're doing quite a few things from Blood and Chrome. I think you're going to have to wait to find out what they are. But I do have for you here this classic Centurion. And I think it's a given that at some point next year, at one of the conventions, there might just be a gold variant of this. Not real. Well, gold-plated maybe, but definitely the gold Centurion is on its way for next year. But for the rest of us, we'll be able to get our standard classic Centurion.
See, I thought you were going to say it's obvious that next year following that, we're going to do Muffat the Dagger.
Yeah, it's not obvious. Whatever Adam in our office keeps asking for. I don't think Daggett. If people want Daggett, people can write to Chris to request Daggett. And when 5,000 of you have written to Daggett, just as we did the non-canon Star Trek ships, we will do Daggett.
Okay, write me. I will take those requests, please. Muffat the Daggett, we all want it. Going on to another line of ships that's continuing that we sort of showed before. These guys.
Yeah. So the Orville, we will be coming back in force from the Orville, and it will then be a regular series. From fall of next year, there's a bit of work to do. They're incredibly helpful, the guys at Seth MacFarlane's company, Fuzzy Door, but they're working very hard, and we're all dealing with the realities of lockdown. So it's going to be kind of a little bit earlier than this time next year that will pick up and kick off again. So there's something to look forward to there.
Yes, and another thing to look forward to around Q1 or so of next year, something we announced right at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I thought you were going to do the music. Yeah, so we have an Eagle, which I think will actually have a couple of variants of the Eagle. I'm going to change that pod out. Coming. We're not sure exactly on the timing. I think spring. I think is probably spring into summer is a fair idea of the date on that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good. So the eagle hasn't landed yet, but it's on its way, as you can see. You know, it's headed to Earth. And
Indeed.
we are also, I guess, you know, spoilers, expanding our line, shall we say, with a new license.
Well, yeah. So we have two new licenses to announce.
Yes.
I think obviously you just given the first one away.
Yeah.
That we will be doing a line of ships from the Expanse. Not surprisingly, starting with the Rocinante. And that should debut in roughly fall of next year again. So around about the same time as the Orville ships. We're very excited to be doing that, and we've had, you know, got beautiful models that have been handed over to us from the guys at Amazon. It's a very good thing for us to be doing, I think.
Yeah, well, and I have to say that this is one that's been requested a lot and in person. So there was a particular guy, there was a few of them, but there was a particular guy I remember at New York Comic Con last year. So if you're watching this, this is partly in response to you coming up and saying to me at the booth, we should have Expanse ships. We actually do take on all these bits of constant feedback, and then we're saying, hey, people keep asking for stuff. It's
also true that one of our owners has been constantly asking for us to do the Expanse ships. So he has slightly more sway. However much we listen to everybody, he owns the company. So he says, yeah, what about the Expanse? When are we doing the Expanse?
But you are all still very special folks. And actually, the next one certainly comes down to, you know, something else that's been requested a lot as well.
Indeed it does, and certainly I don't think our owners even know what this series is. So we are doing, because it's just given away, ships from Stargate. So again, we've been in touch with not just with the licensor, but with the production team, and we've managed to track down the original VFX models. This VFX has moved on a little bit since some of them were made for the show, so we're upgrading them at the moment, and that should be due out towards the end of 2021, maybe early 2022. But I'm really pleased, again, that we're able to expand what we do literally into new universes.
Yeah, we have quite an expansive range now, which is great, you know, and certainly for anyone that had been saying, oh, Hero Collector haven't announced, you know, a whole bunch of things for ages, I want to hear about ships. I think we've just kind of bombarded you. I don't know if you're able to keep track of all of that. Certainly I can imagine people trying to grab screen grabs of things, and it's all moving very fast, but there is a lot in there. There's a lot coming out. And honestly, there's still so much that we haven't been able to say, like some big projects that we just literally, you know, it wasn't quite time. They hadn't docked yet, and we couldn't say anything.
Yeah, there'll be plenty more announcements to come in 2021. There's, you know, we're planning stuff well into 2022, 2023. There's some very exciting stuff coming on top of the stuff that we've been able to announce. And there are some lovely surprises actually still to come inside the stuff that we've been able to announce. But I think people will just have to wait and see what they are.
Exactly, yes. So it's both a reveal and a lot of information there, but still with our trademark teasers peppered throughout, because we can't help ourselves, and yet we just can't, we're not allowed to tell you more at the moment.
No, it's hell. Or Gretel.
Literally, sometimes I just feel like this. And that is my life many days. So thank you, Ben, for taking the time with me to, you know, fill everyone in on what's happening with Hero Collector. And certainly we'll go back to continuing the good work, whether it be in hell or shock. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah, bye. See you soon, I hope, in person.
Yes.